All right. Happy Wednesday. Oh, it's Monday. Just kidding. um, man, what a day. Crazy markets. I don't know if you guys have looked at your portfolio today, but it might be down a little bit. Not complaining about that. Always a good opportunity to buy here. Not financial advice, but there were a lot of people that I've been following on the TA scene, which I'm sure you guys do as well, that were calling for some type of pullback here. A lot of them had it playing out a little bit longer. Obviously, we didn't, happen a lot faster than they thought. We pulled all the way back for XRP back down into like $1.90, $2, which is kind of the area that they kept saying we would touch. So with the flash crash and a liquidation event, I'm not saying it doesn't, move sideways from here for a little bit. Maybe the whole crypto market's that way for a period of time. But you got to get rid of the leverage longs every once in a while. So I think that it was needed. We did have, a big move to the upside for a lot of tokens in a very short period of time. With that, I know some people were shorting things. I know people that made a good chunk of change on this move to the downside. There were a lot of people 2 Sundays ago when XRP ran up said, "Hey, here's the top, local top. We're gonna short things." We see it pulling back to $2, and they closed the trade today. Happy for them, and I think the rest of the market can go ahead and move on higher now. So we did have 60 Minutes Sunday night. Brad Garlinghouse on there talked about crypto and the state of things. The SEC's role in protecting investors in crypto. What that looked like. It was interesting to see. I thought it was fairly balanced. Obviously they left a lot of things out. Short segment, I think they kept it at like 13 to 15 minutes. They go through multiple things on 60 minutes. So I think they shot 90 minutes worth of content for Brad and then the other gentleman that was on there. And they kind of, squished that down to the pieces that they would use. I think it could have gone worse for sure. You did have, I don't know if you guys know who Peter Schiff is. He did sue 60 Minutes Australia for wasn't really a hit piece that they did on him, but they really didn't paint him in the best light, and it was kind of defamation. It wasn't kind of defamation. It was definitely defamation, and he did actually win that lawsuit against 60 Minutes years ago. So, I think it could have absolutely been worse. I was proud of Brad and Ripple and what they stand for. Brad is very articulate and he's an advocate for the industry. And I think that he was well spoken on there and did the industry justice for the interview. So those are some of the things that are going on. Most recent here, as always, we do the AMA on Monday and Wednesday nights for you guys here on TikTok and then also here on YouTube and X. If you guys have any questions that you would like to run down, just post it over there in the chat. Anything to do with estate planning, taxes, investments, what that looks like to be able to generate yield, borrow, infinite banking, insurance, all that stuff in the context of digital assets is what we talk about here. And then, if you have something else outside of that scope, every once in a while, I'll answer that too. So go ahead and hop into it. Appreciate you guys taking out time on your Monday night to hang out with me. So Atlantic Living is always like the top of the chart here with good questions. They've asked, could there be a much bigger dip with the December 13th Coinbase delisting Tether and UST in the EU? If true, the price of XRP drops end of week. Last time you see XRP any cheaper? Thoughts? Could we see the whole market pull down when that happens? Absolutely. Is there a chance that XRP is moving up while all that's happening and everything else is moving down? Also a possibility. I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I would be a lot wealthier than I am. And I would probably be managing a hedge fund. We have a family office and we do provide, full scope of services for people that do really well in digital assets. We do have counsel and financial advisors and wealth managers and, qualified custody and insurance and all the stuff I mentioned for those people. But I am not licensed. I do not have a 65. We do not manage capital. We do raise some money occasionally for businesses and other things there in the mastermind. But, outside of that, I don't have a crystal ball. So, Tether's been flooded for a long time. It's never gone anywhere. I do think it is going to get sanctioned. I do think there are going to be problems with it. I do think that that's going to have impacts on Bitcoin. Could that happen December 13th here this month? Absolutely. I definitely think that it could. But what is the broader impact on the market? Obviously, if Bitcoin was impacted, everything else would be impacted. I just have an inkling that XRP may see a rise while everything else is falling. And people won't know what's going on. So we'll see. I think, anything under $10, $50, $100 is just like buying Bitcoin at those prices for XRP. Loyan says, hey, Jake, if you lived in Europe and you plan to move after price appreciation, where would you set up an LLC and why? I'm looking for the easiest, most efficient, and safest route. Cost efficient. UAE is number one on my list at the moment. UAE is great. Actually have a call with some estate planners there tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., which would be late their time, like 2 or 3 p.m. their time. We've been to Dubai twice in the last year, once for Swell. Actually, it was a little more than a year ago for Swell. And then earlier this year in February, we were there and hosted a conference at the XDC's office, met Atul and Ritesh and the DIFC and a lot of other regulators in the space. So UAE is great. I think they have a lot of benefits there if that's a place you would like to move to. I really enjoyed Dubai. Definitely not any other place in the world that I've ever been to that, I don't want to say holds a candle, but if you're looking for larger than life, Dubai is it, man. If you're in Europe, you could look at Portugal, you could look at Monaco, you could look at Nevis. I don't know if you like Spain or not, but Nevis is a good locale there, especially for LLCs. If you're looking for a trust, might look at a different jurisdiction. But again, if you're looking for people that can help you establish entities in any one of those jurisdictions, feel free to reach out to us. It's just info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and we can provide you with some people that would be able to help you structure those things. Whatever Cleaver one says, stablecoin soon. I hope no money for Dubai. I just need to pay the mortgage. Hey, everybody's got their own goals after price appreciation, and I know a lot of people that just want to pay off their home and live debt free and have that burden off of them. I've talked about this before, but I'll mention it just because this is a topic of conversation. Kind of two thoughts on this. If you have a home, should you pay it off? Well, it depends on the interest rate that you're currently paying on, right? If you locked in a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at less than 3%, that's like free money, man. I would put that money to work somewhere else that generated a higher return in an apartment complex or business or treasuries. Like almost anything's generating higher than 3% right now, where you could park that money and then have a spread where you made more than you needed to pay your mortgage every single month. So that would be the logical way to go about it. Now, there is an emotional component here, and there's a quality of life and a stress component, right? So there are some people that no matter if they even had a stream of income that paid for or not, it's still something that would keep them up at night or be in the back of their mind. And if it caused you to have a lesser quality of life, I think it's absolutely worth paying off your mortgage. And if you got so much money that it doesn't matter, then obviously, you be your own bank and borrow against your own capital and refinance it that way. And owe yourself if you wanted to, but you're not going to get it at 3%. I'm just telling you that. So anyway, again, two schools of thought. Logically, doesn't make sense to pay it off, especially if it's less than maybe 4% interest that you're paying on your home note or your mortgage. And but if again, you have a quality of life issue or it does weigh on you, then it definitely might be worth it Just it's different person to person. It's inevitable. I like the name. Jake Claver, do you see DWP hiring more advisors post price appreciation? And what are some qualifications you'll look for, being the landscape is evolving with new products and ways to generate yield? It's a great question. And yes, we will definitely continue to add to the group of advisors that we have on staff there at Digital Wealth Partners. You have to be licensed, so you're going to have a 65. You could also have a 7 and a 66. That allows you to also advise on people's money. Those are kind of the certifications and qualifications. Background, I'd really prefer to work with people that are a bit more crypto native when managing these types of assets. All of our advisors up to this point are crypto native. TradFi people, how do I say this nicely? I really don't like traditional RIAs. I don't like the portfolio allocation. I don't like that they rake you for fees. I don't like that you don't make much money and they take the money out of where it's making money and move it into unprofitable investments, just because that's what their portfolio allocation says to do. I don't think that the majority of wealth managers actually have your interest at heart. They just want the AUM fee, and that's what they live off of. And if they do make you some yield, great. But the way that I've structured yield there for DWP is very much in the client's favor. I put it together in a way that I would want to be a client. So anything over 10 million is only going to be 40 basis points for the AUM fee. So $40,000 a year to manage $10 million, very low in comparison to the majority of people managing that size of a portfolio. On the other side of that, DWP does not make another dime until they generate you at least 8% returns. So they need to make you at least $800,000 on a $10 million portfolio before they even get to participate in the upside. Anything north of 8%, between 8 and 20%, is a 20-80 split. So they need to generate you 13%-ish on your money before they ever make around 1% on the returns. And then, north of 20%, if they just have a banger year, which I don't see happening all the time, especially if they're mitigating downside risk. There could be circumstances where they really just crush it, or AMMs outperform, or liquidity pools outperform, or some of these other DeFi assets really just crush it because they're new and there's illiquid markets and they're able to deploy capital quickly and generate significant yield before that arbitrage comes down. But in those circumstances, if it was north of 20% at that amount, so just to kind of because I know people are going to ask, the first 8% they make nothing on. 8 to 20 is an 80-20 split, and they only get the 20% of those returns. And then anything beyond 20%, they go 50-50 on. So if it was 21%, they're only going to get 50% of that 1% above the 20%. So anyway, I've structured it in a way where, they're incentivized to generate significant returns for our clients, and it's really not very cost inhibitive to get going with us. And we really don't make a ton of money until we're generating significant returns for clients. But anyway, hiring more people, absolutely. We're going to continue to develop products there to be able to generate yield on people's assets, borrow, lend, earn, all those things. We have the capability to borrow against your assets now. And we're working on other ways that we can take those assets to Goldman and Fidelity and Citi and other large financial institutions and post them as collateral for margin to be able to generate even higher returns. Todd, how are you, sir? Thank you for the super chat. He says, good evening. I just wanted to say publicly how much value I'm getting from the Beyond Broke Mastermind. One of my best investments. Thank you, Todd. I really appreciate you coming in here and telling people that. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the group that we have there. I really just super blessed and grateful for all of the people that we have in the mastermind. A lot of people in Carbon 2 like yourself that are a little bit further along and have things established, their estate plan, and maybe a bit more educated on the space. But really, just if you're brand new to this or if you're very advanced, we have people there that can help you on every single step of that journey, that have been there, done that, walked through it, walked in your shoes, and are just a few steps ahead. And it's a really cool community to be a part of. A little over 1,000 people there in the mastermind at this point. And for those that are watching this, you can go check it out. You get 1 month for free if you put in Beyond Broke, the 2 words capitalized, one, the number 1, and then MO. You can do that for Carbon One or Social. Check it out for a month. See if you like it. No skin off your nose either way. I have a feeling you'll stick around. Like I said, a lot of really good people with aligned interest in there. And we are going to raise prices on the mastermind post price appreciation. On the other side of $10 for XRP, we're locking it down for 30 days and raising the prices 10x on all of the membership classes. And we'll also have a significantly higher threshold and vetting process for allowing people into the community. So if that's something you're interested in, if you think you'd like to get in there before that happens here in December, then I would go ahead and lock in those prices and get in the group before the end of the month here. Let's see. The old man of XRP. I love the name. Appreciate you, brother. Can you expound on your short video about the IMF and the XRP escrow? Yeah, absolutely. So for a long time, there's been a speculation that Ripple would hand over the escrow or the distribution of the escrow to a higher body. That could be BlackRock. It might be the IMF. It could be, another government, U.S. government. I think that there could be a lot of situations that pan out. But what's interesting to me and why the IMF kind of sticks out in my mind is in 2017, Brad and a few others from Ripple met with the IMF. There's photos of that if you want to go check it out. Obviously, there was a significant run up in XRP, but that was post them locking up the escrow. There was a supply shock in 2017. I think we're in for another supply shock here at the end of the year. But aside from that, that's why I speculated that the IMF is involved. Obviously, they have the special drawing right, or the SDR. They proposed the Bancor coin back in 1944 at Bretton Woods, which would have served as an intermediary bridge currency for all of the countries that make up the basket of the SDR. And now they have an ESDR. I don't believe that XRP is the ESDR, but I do believe that it may sit in the basket and make up a component of it and be used to settle all the transactions if they are providing liquidity to people. And I do kind of see the escrow as a source of liquidity and kind of a lender of last resort in a liquidity crisis. So we'll see, who ends up with the escrow. There could be an acquisition of Ripple. Like I said, BlackRock may end up being the one that does that. Only reason I speculate that is that we've had a couple executives step down here recently, and there's a few accounts on X that have, pointed to that event and said that there's some rumblings about potential acquisition of Ripple. So we'll see which way it shakes out. Obviously, I and many others have a vested interest in them going public through some means. A lot of people own equity in Ripple. It's one of the most liquid traded stocks on the secondary market. We have seen price jump from right around $30 per share up to $60 per share just recently on the secondary market after we saw the price appreciation in XRP. Ripple is buying back shares. They're raising the floor. They have done 2 tender offers at $61.49, and they also bought back all of the Class C shares at $61.49 a few years ago. So that's kind of the price floor now. On the secondary market, it's moved up to around $60. I think there's some other platforms that still have a pretty significant markup on it. I can't talk about deals that we run in the mastermind, but if you want to know more about that stuff, go check it out. That's another thing that Carbon One gets access to. Let's see here. Industrious metals. Hi, Jake. I'm holding some X coins for family members. Great. If I send to them, I have to pay taxes. No. I want them to hold their tokens or coins, but they feel the same about me holding them for them. So they want you to hold their tokens, and you are concerned about holding them, which you rightly should be. I would make sure that they're separated out on different devices, and I wouldn't hold them all in the same wallet. I would have them segregated in different wallets, and then they could be their wallets, and you just have them wherever you have them, right? Maybe they have keys and you have keys. It's always good to have a crypto buddy. If you don't have your assets in institutional custody, somebody that you know is going to take care of your family if, God forbid, something did happen to you. You won't have to pay taxes if you send them to them. Again, if you're just holding them on a wallet and you hand them the wallet, who's to know that they didn't have that wallet, right? They could have given you the money to purchase it on an exchange through your account. So anyway, that's the way I would go about it. I would just have them segregated on wallets, separate from one another. And if you're holding it or they're holding it, that's up to you. Non-financial advice, educational entertainment purposes only. Jet44 says, hi, I'm a longtime Mastermind member. Awesome. In hopes of custody and yield. Just missed the 100K limit and heard you raising it again to $10. So I missed again. Thought you were going to be grandfathered in. So we do have a rate that's grandfathered in for Mastermind members at 40 basis points that lasts through the end of the year. And I really don't think you're going to be, I don't think you're going to miss it. That's all I'm going to say. I have a feeling this might be a December to remember, and I could be wrong. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but it feels like things are starting to be promising here. Again, they just mentioned Tether on the 13th. Interesting day to be doing that. It's Friday this week. So yeah, I don't think you're going to have a problem getting in there with whatever amount you have. We are likely going to raise it to 1.1 million at the $10 limit. Again, and that's not to leave anybody behind. That's just so that we can make sure that we're maintaining the level of service for clients that we need to. And we are a family office. We have 10 clients that are, 20, 50, 100 million or more in current assets under management. And that's the level of service and what we have to provide. So, not to say, I think a lot of people in the Mastermind are going to be extremely surprised at how quickly their portfolio increases in value, and that they will likely be far beyond the threshold required. I think $10 might be just a little blink on the map. David J, hey, beat the deadline in onboarding process. Awesome. Is DWP currently able to provide enough yield to cover custody and management fees? Thank you for everything that you do. Got my hand slapped for talking about this stuff. So you're going to have to email support@digitalwealthpartners.net, and they can give you the exact breakdown of this. I know I had a conversation with them today. Today is the first bill that's been sent out to anybody at DWP for the custody component and the AUM. I know that they have multiple people that they're currently in discussions with about providing yield. I know that we can do it if you have at least 2.2 million in net worth. That's not a problem. Below that, they have other solutions that they're solidifying at the moment. And I'm with you. I really don't care what it is, as long as it pays for the fees there. And again, I would love for it to be free. But it does have to pay employees. There's a lot of compliance and red tape around running an RIA. There's a lot of reasons I didn't want to do that. But at the end of the day, we wanted to make sure that we were setting the standard and the highest level of compliance and making sure that people were taken care of and providing all the opportunities that we want to for our clients. And so with that kind of comes all of the other stuff that you may not necessarily enjoy and costs associated with that as well. So anyway, I think that should be viable this month. Again, they have a lot of solutions that they are working on solidifying and should be broadcasting to clients in the very near future. Daniel Smith, I read that even though the XLM origin account has not been black holed, the protocol precludes the mint of new tokens. True or false? I would say false. Let's see if I'm missing anything over here on TikTok. XRP is all hype. The tech isn't there. We already have Tether to send money around the world. The tech isn't there. So the XRPL can move 1,500 transactions per second. There's also payment channels that allow it to scale basically infinitely to be able to move value. You can't mint other assets on Tether. Not everybody wants to receive USD on the other side of a transaction. They've never been audited. And so we know that, well, I know that there's some problems there. They're also using Bitcoin as part of their backing, which isn't going to fly for US stablecoin regulation. There's a lot of reasons that I think they've used Tether. I think they rolled Tether in about 2017 and have used it to be able to acquire treasuries over time. It's actually the 5th or 6th largest holder of treasuries globally, US foreign debt. Anyway, yeah, Tether also moves over different networks. You got Tron, you got Ethereum, you've got Polygon that you can send Tether over as well. Fees, there's latency, that's reduced on some of those networks, and I'm sure that's probably your point here. However, again, you can't mint other assets or create smart contracts on Tether to allow for specific transactions or derivatives or other financial products to be transacted. There's a lot of reasons that you would want to use a DEX, which is inherent to the XRPL, to be able to provide and trade assets that are issued on the network. RWAs are going to be a big thing for the XRPL in the very near future. You've got the Ethereum or the EVM sidechain. You've got hooks. You got Axelar, which connects that to Onyx with this JP Morgan's infrastructure. You got the Cactus protocol, which allows for R3's infrastructure, Corda, to be able to be interoperable with Hyperledger and with any EVM solution, including the sidechain on the XRPL. So, you need a bridge currency. If you go ahead and Google global bridge currency, you'll see what comes up, and the answer is XRP. It's not Tether. So, and just, to your point, Ripple has used Tether and ODL to be able to settle those transactions between counterparties that did want to receive USD on either side of it. However, they are minting their own stablecoin, and that makes up, at one point, it made up about 20% of the volume on Tether. So, anyway, I could go on, but I won't. Get off my soapbox. We've got Daniel Trent, he says the 1099 DA safe harbor taxes in Coinly. How to treat my asset swaps. I need a breakdown of source material so the IRS does not take my XRP. Mastermind members, thanks. The IRS isn't going to, they can't take your XRP. For one, it can't be frozen. It can't be taken from you. It cannot be clawed back. Those are only issued assets on the network. The IRS may assess a lien or tax against you. I'm hoping that the IRS goes away. We'll see what happens with Vivek and the audit and everything else that's going on there. But I'm with you. In the short term, we have to live like it still exists. And so with that, it would be a good idea to go ahead and file your 1099 DA and use the safe harbor provision before the end of the year here. What we are doing for a lot of our clients is, you can use the LLC at the moment that you moved your assets in there over the last 12 months, whenever that was. You can point to that price, and then all the assets in that wallet are now that price moving forward. You still have to use FIFO for the length or term that you've held those assets, but that makes it much simpler as a cost basis moving forward. So you could go to, we talked about this in the Mastermind today, if you want to go check out the town hall that we had. We talked about the 1099 DA, and there were multiple links posted in there to Clinton Donnelly's site, where he has, it's cryptotaxaudit.com, and he has the 1099 DA where you can download it and file it. People said they're down $80 today. Man, I know people that are down $1 million or more today. Not to belittle anybody. Everybody has a meaningful amount or whatever it is for them in crypto. And even a small investment can yield significant returns for people here in digital assets. So, you got big players and big fish, and you got other people that are, putting some here, hoping that, in the next 3 to 5 years, they should be able to retire off of it. And I do think that you'll be able to if you're investing in the right assets today. CJ says, you're the best. Appreciate your kind words. When do you think XRP and Swift utilize R3 and it all becomes a reality? Let's fucking go. There needs to be a crisis, right? Like there's going to have to be enough liquidity in XRP to be able to settle those transactions. I think they're going to use the ETFs and retail and FOMO to drive liquidity into XRP. There could be another crisis across exchanges. You got the Shane Ellis theory, where they would, no longer have the liquidity from Tether or Bitcoin, and they would roll that liquidity into XRP to be able to provide settlement for transactions at scale for whatever's trading on the exchanges, utilizing the DEX, like I mentioned before. So anyway, I'm waiting for whatever crisis that is. Again, I put the domino theory out earlier this year. Japan and the reverse carry trade that's over there. Obviously something that I think everybody should be watching if you're not. And the way that you can look at that is Japan's treasuries. You can look at the 10-year yield on their treasury. We're over 1%, which is a crazy increase from where we were just a year ago. I do think that the Bank of Japan or the BOJ will raise interest rates again. And when they do that, we will see a significant unwind of the reverse carry trade. You've already had the U.S. lower interest rates, so it's squeezing those people that have borrowed yen, swapped them for dollars, put them to work in our markets. And as they're not able to generate as much yield on treasuries domestically for the U.S. or in the stock market, if we saw a significant downturn, those people would have to start selling off those positions to be able to convert back to yen to repay those loans. I do think that the S&P has potentially topped here. I haven't looked at it today, but it was over 6,000 the last time I looked, which is what I thought the top would be. Yeah, we're at 6,052. There's a few people that I respect that have called a top around 6,000, and I think that they're going to be proven right in the short term here. I do think that we're due for a significant downside move in the traditional stock market. And so on the other side of those things happening is when I think you're going to see implementation for XRP, for back-end settlement, to be able to de-risk and remove the risk for unrealized losses as things are able to settle real time. I am not moving fast enough on the questions tonight. We're already 30 minutes in, so I apologize if I don't get to you, but you guys are asking really good questions. And so I also ramble probably more than I should. This person says, I'm at about 90,000. So they're not shares. 90,000 shares of XRP at 240, cut my losses and run. It depends on what you're here for. Some people are traders. Some people are investors. I look at things on a 4-year time horizon at a minimum. If I'm making an investment in something, you probably have a broader portfolio and you made an allocation here in anticipation of a larger move. You're not down that much. You're down maybe 10% today, something like that. If you're not used to crypto, that's going to seem like something crazy and a big move to the downside. In most markets, it would be. In crypto, that's not a big deal. There's lots of days when you're down 30, 40, 50% in a single day. A lot of people have been here for that. And that's also what comes with, days where you're up 100% or 200%. This asset class is volatile. So I wouldn't get scared if you have conviction in your investment and you do believe that it'll go higher and you believe in the utility of the asset or the long-term vision of the network and how it's going to be used. I don't see any reason to cut losses at 10% to the downside. If you're here to make a quick buck, it might be a good time to do it. I don't think that it is. I'm highly confident that, this asset in particular could move significantly higher before the end of the year. But I am not a financial advisor. That's not financial advice. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. And you do you. So Dennis says, hi, Jake, one last chance to get in cheap. I'm with you, Dennis. I don't know that things are going to move much lower from here. Let's see. Britt Dickinson says, I think this dip, it eliminates any chance. No. I guarantee you people are going to have a really hard time reconciling market cap for XRP when it does move to prices that people have no idea how it's moving to those prices. And it's going to be because of utility and actual adoption of the asset and the network. The value is in the protocol. Let's see. Freddie Weisberg says, what % of my XRP bag should I keep as a moon bag? I don't know what your financial situation is. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what your time horizon is. I don't know what your risk tolerance is. There's a lot of things there that I would have to unpack to give you any type of meaningful answer. You could go talk with the advisors at Digital Wealth Partners, and they could run that down exactly what you need to do. They would ask you all those same questions that I just mentioned, and likely more, to be able to whittle it down to an actual plan for you. Again, we're working on the ability to be able to borrow against your XRP. We already have that in place. People that understand the infinite banking concept. If you've never heard of that before, I would encourage you to go check that out. It's a strategy using life insurance policies and funding those with assets. PPLI is something that we use with our higher net worth clients. But even if you didn't have your assets inside of a policy, you could borrow against it. People think about this like they do with real estate. Okay, so or at least people are more familiar with it in that asset class. Let's say your home was worth $150,000 5 years ago. Okay, and now it's worth $500,000 today. You kept the note on it. You kept tenant in there, and over the last couple of years, as the value has appreciated. And those payments have continued to be made, you've refinanced it a couple times, even at higher interest rates, to pull more liquidity out of it. And now that there's an increase in equity of the home, you have more money that you can pull out of it and put to work somewhere else. Maybe even put down on an apartment complex or something larger, right? So as the asset appreciates in value, you can continue to refinance that note and pull cash out of it while it continues to pay off the interest, either through a mechanism of in and of itself, if the XRP's, we're working with a potential opportunity to restake XRP or generate yield through AMMs or liquidity pools or other means. And you could borrow against that as collateral while it pays itself off. And then as the asset appreciates in value, goes to $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000, you could continue to borrow against it over time with larger and larger amounts. Debt is tax-free. You don't owe any money to the IRS for debt that you borrow. This is what you see with a lot of the tech billionaires. Bezos did just actually sell a bunch of his stock, and that's another reason I think the market's close to topping. But they borrow against their equity in the companies, right? Mark Zuckerberg pays himself $1 a year for his salary, and he borrows against his equity there in Facebook and his stock. Camera's being weird tonight. Anyway, that's how I think about XRP. I think it ends up being a tier 1 asset in the banking system. I think that you'll be able to collateralize it and borrow against it at very favorable interest rates. And I think it'll be the goose that lays the golden eggs for the rest of your life. So, up to you. There's never a wrong time to take profit. You never go broke taking profit. So it depends on your goals and a lot of those circumstances I mentioned. I know other people that, $10 million seems like they're done, they're retired, they're good to go. I know other people that want $1 billion because they want to build an empire and a legacy for their family, or other people that want hundreds of millions so that they can start a foundation and give back and help and make charitable contributions and change the world. All just depends on your goals and where you want to go and what price you think XRP is going to get to. So I know that was really kind of a crap answer for probably what you wanted. Like, you should keep 20% of your bag. I'm not ever going to give people that. Again, I don't think there's a right answer. It all depends on you. Let's see here. We have some other people over here on TikTok. where are we at here? Google's new Willow chip. Oh yeah, I saw that. That's crazy. So it solved that problem that would have taken a supercomputer like 10 septillion years or something. It's like 10 to the 25th exponent, and it did it in 5 minutes, which is crazy. That's the other reason I do think we're a lot closer to quantum computing than people really believe or understand. And so with that, institutional custody is going to become paramount for people. You're going to want your assets held somewhere that can't be hacked. Cold wallets, if you have both keys exposed, if you have sent to the wallet and sent from the wallet, you are potentially open to a quantum attack and a hacking of your wallet, especially as these things progress. So I'm not saying that's today, but I do think within the next 12 to 18 months, that is going to be a very significant concern for a lot of people and how they hold their digital assets. Paul, and not Paul Michael, Michael Paul. He says, hey, Jake, can you comment on the current availability of crypto life insurance products, including IULs, different structural setup, the infinite banking? So we do that for our clients. We cannot do it with IULs. There aren't annuities or insurance products that currently invest in crypto. They don't meet the criteria and the mandates that are for that. We're working on solutions for that currently with partners right now. However, the only way that we can currently get access to crypto is through PPLI or private placement life insurance. Everybody talks about IULs, man. Depends on how they're structured. Okay. I think they're a great tool, especially if you have children and you anticipate them wanting a cash value of a life insurance policy and you have a long time horizon. I think that using IULs for children is a fantastic tool. I don't think it's always the best thing, but again, these are all tools. So you really don't have a limit to the downside. They will tell you that unless you get a fixed rate life insurance policy, it's not a variable rate. And the reason for that is if the insurance companies had significant losses in the stock market, which I do anticipate is going to happen, they can raise those premiums to whatever they want to. And if you can't cover the premiums or the monthly payment on that policy, they will start taking it from the principal that you invested in the policy in order to make those payments. And people that sell the insurance, they're not going to tell you that. We sell insurance products. I understand them fairly intimately. We know how to make sure that they are not a MEC, modified endowment contract. We structure things specifically so that you do have a high cash value in the policy and it's invested and it meets the certain criteria of diversification. It's managed by the RIA. There's a bunch of things that we do on that side. And I really love the way that, you can involve financial products here with insurance in the U.S. I think it's a loophole and a crazy one that the wealthy use to make sure that they never lose their money. We definitely know how to do it. We know how to implement it. We know how to work with a lot of people. The main person that we work with on PPLI used to work for the Rockefeller family office, who pioneered that concept. So anyway, just be careful. Make sure you're educated on IULs if you're going to use them, and make sure that you get a fixed rate policy and people can't, stick you with their losses on the other side of a problem in the market. Even if they do limit the downside to zero, they can still take your principal if you can't meet the premiums. Let's see here. I'll scroll on down, see if I'm missing any super chats. Alfredo, hola! What's going on, man? He says, with Trump proposing no tax on crypto for U.S. companies, will there be a tax on yield on assets and yield on crypto IRAs in custody with DWP? Well, you asked a bunch of different questions here. I'll start with the IRAs first. You don't have taxes inside of an IRA, irrespective of yield or not. Because it is a either tax deferred or tax exempt product. You either paid the taxes up front on a Roth and funded it with that capital, And then again, no taxes if you're trading or earning inside of that qualified vehicle. Same thing if you funded it, you're just going to owe taxes on the distributions when you do start taking those after 59.5. So that's that one. As far as the no capital gains on U.S. companies, I think that Ripple, Hedera, and Hyperledger or Stellar are positioned extremely well to benefit from that. It makes a lot of sense to me if you were going to utilize those networks to move payment volumes at scale, that you wouldn't want to have tax implications because on the other side of those transactions, there could be small volatility and a potential change in the value of the asset on the other side of the transaction when you're sending money to a counterparty, and you would be liable for those taxes. That would be when they would be realized. So for financial institutions to adopt these payment rails, it does make a lot of sense to me that they would not involve capital gains. May just be, long-term capital gains that they remove. I don't know what the full plan is by Trump, and we won't until he's inaugurated and we get some actual legislation around it. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It definitely changes some of the strategies and how we would play things, not significantly, but I think people would be excited to be able to cash out a portion and not owe taxes on those. But again, if you do plan to hold the assets for your lifetime and be able to pass them on to your kids, as the goose that lays the golden eggs, again, borrowing, never going to have any tax implications anyway. So, yeah, I think that runs it down, and I appreciate your question, sir. We've got, what do you think the ultimate limit for XRP in 2025? Upper 4 digits, I think, is the limit in 2025. And yeah, you heard me correctly. Let's see here. How much lower will it go? I have no idea. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I could tell you, like, this is the number. I can tell you the guys that I saw that were shorting it, shorted it to $2, and we hit that today. If they were confident that it was going to go lower, then I think they probably would have shorted and bought options lower. So this is potentially the bottom, and that's what a lot of the TA guys say. Nate says, I got it under $1. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be very happy if you bought XRP under $1. Tin Paws, hey, what's going on? Good to see you. Look up your Uphold vault address on XRP Scan and see if it shows Uphold or no name. If it shows Uphold, then I think not, but I defer to Jake's expertise. I'm not sure about their vault stuff. It should be a separate wallet, completely not in their name. They do hold the third key to be able to generate the keys if you lose them. So that would be the only circumstance in which I think they would be listed as a counterparty on the wallet, on the network. But it's not owned by Uphold. Again, it's just a service that they provide, and you do pay for it. Talked to Simon last year, and man, yeah, in 2023 in Austin, I had some drinks with him at the XDC conference down there when they were going to roll out Vault, and he told me, kind of the reasoning behind it and why they were doing it. I think it was a brilliant business move on their part. It turned an expense into a revenue stream and a reoccurring revenue stream. So proud of them for that. I think it was a good choice, and I do think it provides value for people. But again, not sure if their name is listed on it. If it is, it's only because they're holding the third key to be able to regenerate your keys. They cannot transact on your behalf or, take your assets. And Jufu Baby says Beyond Broke Mastermind. Appreciate you. Glad to have you guys in there. And yeah, we have some OGs. We have some people that have been around. We've had the Mastermind for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years next month on the 6th that we announced that we were launching the Mastermind. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. It's been an awesome ride. Great to have the culture and the people that we do have in there. And again, might be locking it down here in the short term for people before they get in. Thomas says, you think 10,000 XRP could be generational wealth, or you need more? If it goes to $10,000, like I think it's going to when it settles the derivatives market, I'm not saying that's this year or next year, but in the future, at some point when Codius is released and that's a thing, yeah, I mean, what does that end up being? 10,000 times 10,000, you got $100 million. Like, it's pretty good, especially if you do well and you structure it the right way and you put it to work and it's protected inside of a trust and you've got things set up to make sure that it, maybe you got a spendthrift trust where it just pays off income to people and they can't ever touch the principal. Yeah, well, come see me. happy to help you with that. I'm extremely confident in the asset. I have been for a long time, super bullish. And I'm excited to see some price appreciation finally after waiting for, 4 years here, 7 years for some people. And, almost everybody's in profit at this point, at least a little bit, unless you just bought here recently at 240, like the gentleman mentioned over here. But again, I think it's going to be one of those where you're like, I wish I'd bought more. It's going to be like Bitcoin at $2.50. Just my opinion. XLM and HBAR, I also think are fantastic opportunities. Both of those have seen a decent run here in the past month also. HBAR's got the ETFs pending too, which is interesting. Anything that ends up with an ETF, I think they're going to be able to pile and drive liquidity into. Congress is out of session. The SEC said that they're not going to approve any more ETFs until the new chairman steps in. You got Gary saying he's going to last till January 20th. I don't think he's going to last that long. I think that there's a potential move where they move Paul in before. You saw Jake Clayton step down on the winter solstice 2020 and drop the lawsuit on Ripple before Gary came in. I kind of have a feeling that something similar might happen here in the near future. Subtleties. The only way you get them is if you actually work with R3. I'm not wearing my hoodie tonight. I need to find my hoodie. If you guys want to go check that out, Max was wearing his hoodie the other day on his channel, Max Avery. If you guys don't follow him, I would go check him out. David M says making money in DeFi going to be the next big thing. So I would agree with you. I think that DeFi is going to absolutely revolutionize how value moves and how people generate income for themselves. The only caveat I would bring with that is I do think that the banks and the institutions are going to want their cut and want their piece. And again, the quantum computing is a thing there. I do think that you're going to have to be able to participate through regulated products and offerings. That's something that we're working on with Reg D funds to be able to provide a wrapper for certain Reg D or certain DeFi protocols. And the reason around that is people, I don't think, are fully aware of the risks of participating in some of these things. A lot of people have been rugged and taken, and no risks were disclosed to them, and there's no recourse. There's just a lot of things in crypto right now. It's the wild, wild west. You don't even know who you're participating with. There's no KYC, AML, accreditation, any of those things. And all of those things have their place. I know that they're red tape and compliance. They do protect people in some capacity. I do want to know the counterparties involved with stuff. I don't want other people to know, but if I'm, risking money or capital with somebody, I want to know who they are so I can drive to their house and punch them in the mouth if something goes bad, right? Same thing for us. Like we have an office here in Dallas. We invite people down. We want you to come meet with us, shake our hand, look us in the eye. If you're going to put capital with us, that's just how I do business. So with DeFi, I think it'll be rolled in, but I think and we're trying to do this. We're trying to marry TradFi and DeFi and create products and solutions that fit compliance and can be brought to the market in a regulated way and help people earn yield on their digital assets, but with all the benefits that you'd get with like a Schwab or Fidelity. So, and the other point of this, like, let's say you had your stuff staked in Aave, okay? And we have a situation like that happens today. There's a huge liquidation in the market. You have to post collateral. You don't post your collateral in time, they just liquidate you. That sucks, right? But if you're working with a qualified custodian and counterparty and tri-party agreements like we have set up, you get 7 days to post collateral. You have some time. And then say you don't get it, at least you get first right of refusal to buy your assets back before they're liquidated on the market, right? So there's other provisions and things that we're able to put in place that you're never going to get with a DeFi protocol. Ooh, this person's asked, what do I think for price of XDC in 2025 or Doge in 2025? I have no crystal ball. If I'm shooting from the hip here, okay? So don't crucify me. This is a complete guess. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm just some random guy on the internet, okay? XDC, I could see somewhere between $1 and $5, I think is reasonable. If you did see utility on the network, I know there's a lot of people out there saying, much higher prices than that. I'm probably a bit more conservative on that network. I do think that it gets traction and adoption for trade finance. Andre Casterman and what he's built with TradeFi is fantastic. I got to listen to everything that he had put forth, and we've actually referred him some business over there for his platform to be able to trade the receivables and provide liquidity to people. So that's kind of my prediction for XDC. I think $1 to $5 is very reasonable in 2025, potentially more. Just depends on, again, the actual utility of the asset and adoption of the network. And then for Doge, and this is probably going to catch some people off guard. I could be wrong. I have no clue on this. That and SHIB, I think, could end up as stable coins. And I know people are going to be like, what? But there's such a community around those tokens that I think they may end up getting adopted as a payment mechanism for like Twitter, X. You've got Elon, who's been behind Doge for a long time. You see it pump when he tweets about it, right? Price manipulation. The SEC hasn't fined him for that because they hold 25% on their balance sheet. But irrespective, I think that Doge could end up being like $1 stable coin. I think that they could back it with the data on Twitter or US Treasuries. And I think that that'd be a really interesting use case for Doge. Is it going to see a meteoric rise like it has in the past? Could. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it ends up a stable coin or a social token. And then same thing with SHIB. I know a lot of people want it to get to a penny. I don't think it's ever going to get to a penny. But I could see it at like 1,000th of a penny, and it could be used for micropayments. Again, just social tokens, I think could be used for payment mechanisms on different platforms if they were backed by whatever is required by U.S. Treasuries. So, go on down the list here. Johnny Lakers, how are you, sir? He says, Jake, do you sometimes regret not selling the hype when there's positive XRP news and then buying back in lower prices, hence increasing your bags? Johnny, I'm not. I'm here to bring logical, informed conversation to the space and give actual reasoning behind price appreciation when asked about things. I'm not here to be a moon boy or hype stuff up. I'm bullish, right? Like I am bullish on things. I do think there is going to be adoption. I think there's going to be price appreciation. I think there are catalysts and macroeconomic events that will drive that adoption. And the removal of some other assets, which people will be very upset about. But yeah, you can't manipulate the price of XRP even if I wanted to. Also, like my hype and my channel is not going to do anything. Retail is not going to do anything. The price action that we've seen right now is not retail, just so you know. It's institutions buying so that they can have collateral for their ETFs. That is what's happening, and why the price has risen to the point that it has. So they've accumulated some. I think we've had a pullback here because we've seen volumes drop off. A mass liquidation of longs in the market. But I do think that will pick up again. And I think that there will be another phase of FOMO here for XRP, maybe on the institutional side, if we started seeing some announcements around Amazon or Google or some of these other large corporations or enterprises using that network. I don't think that that's too far off in the future either. Bank of America and some other things coming out. We'll see, but yeah, that's kind of my anticipation. But yeah, I can't manipulate price even if I wanted to, and I definitely don't want to. I just want to be here to be able to provide people information with logic and reason, and be able to show them some things that they maybe weren't aware of or didn't know. So thank you for the question. Let's see here. A lot of good questions. Jake, Chad, your brother from another mother. What's up, man? Our time is coming. Can't thank you enough for getting me involved in XRP 6 years ago. I didn't realize it's been that long, man. It's been a while. Changing my life for my family and creating generational wealth. Love you, man. Thank you. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing good out there, you and your wife and your daughter. We got Brother Broski. He says, new administration incoming. What's one thing that you would like to see change in the health industry? Ooh. Finances are important, but also take care of your mind, body, and spirit. I think RFK is going to rock people's world when it comes to big pharma and everything else over there. I am super excited for Make America Healthy Again and the movement that he's put forth. I got to talk to him last year. Actually, that was a year ago too. We met with him in Vegas at the F1 event. Talked to him in person. Got to sit down and hang out. Talk to his sons all night long there at the event. And anyway, yeah, there's some other stuff he's kind of out there on, and he does have a little bit of his history wrong when he talks about stuff. But what I like about RFK is he really does address the issues. He may not know how to solve them, but he's going to figure it out, and he's going to bring people in around him that can help him do that. So for him to be put in the position that he has been, I do think that there's going to be a reckoning for big pharma and a lot of the Western medicine that is making people sick, and a lot of the food that we eat. I'm excited to be able to remove all the dyes and colors and MSG and potentially fluoride in the water. Like there's a lot of things that I think he's going to be an advocate for and help over the next 4 years here while he's involved in that capacity. And, I was a bodybuilder for 10 years and I, dove deep on a lot of pharmacology and what different things do to your body and how to use those as tools or what to stay away from. And anyway, yeah, super excited for that. And I appreciate you bringing it up. We are about an hour in. I'm going to hang out for another 30 minutes here. I'm going to go ahead and move down to the bottom of the chat and try to tackle this from the other direction and make sure I get all the super chats here. We've got Monopoly Money, and they say, what's your opinion on ETH and how much would you allocate to a portfolio, and what's your projection for ETH in 2025? I don't know what happens to ETH. I think ETH is a security at this point. I think pure proof of stake is a security. I know people aren't going to like that, and that's okay. I think when it was proof of work, it wasn't a security, but as they've migrated to proof of stake, it is. Concerned about the disguised whales with Ethereum. If you haven't watched XRP Unleashed, I would encourage you to do so. It's a well put together documentary that talks about ETHgate and the SEC and how they worked with the Ethereum Alliance, were involved with the Ethereum Alliance to give clarity to ETH over others in the market and position it ahead of others in the market. If it sticks around and they don't end up in a lawsuit like Ripple did for the last 4 or 5 years, I think that it could continue higher, in 2025. I think constraints around the market are about to shift completely. I think that Bitcoin being the driver for the market is going to be, it's not going to be anymore. I think that XRP will flip Bitcoin in the very near future. And I know, again, people are going to be upset by that. That's okay. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm just one guy. It's just my opinion. So don't shoot me. We have clients that have a lot of Bitcoin and ETH, and they've done really well. And I've seen them roll some of that into XRP. So it's up to you what you're going to make as far as a portfolio allocation. You need 32 ETH in order to participate in a staking pool or set one up yourself. There's some other DeFi protocols where you can, participate and earn yield separate of that and participate in somebody else's pool. I don't know what ETH is going to go to. It's either going to be one or the other. It's either going to go way down from its current price because of the regulation as a security and a lawsuit that's issued by the SEC against the Ethereum Alliance and the other founders, Vitalik and Joseph Lubin, or that's going to get swept under the rug. Nobody's going to talk about it. Things are going to continue as they are, and you're going to continue to see price appreciate over time. As a blue chip in people's portfolios. I do think that the EVM is a crucial component that is going to be used on other networks for smart contracts. There's an EVM sidechain on the XRPL, and I think that other networks could utilize that EVM component. But the Ethereum blockchain itself is slow, high fees. You've already seen people migrate to better solutions. There was the meme coin craze on Solana. There was an NFT craze on Solana because people didn't want to deal with the gas fees and the latency on Ethereum. It's not scalable. And if they were going to make it scalable, they would have already done that by now. They've already rolled out multiple versions and iterations on chain. And it's still poor technology in comparison to some of the other options that exist in the space. For other applications, there may be certain applications where Ethereum's the best thing and you want latency and high fees. I can't think of what those are, but in those circumstances, you might see adoption. It's not anything that I have in my portfolio, nor will I make any allocations to ETH. I think that there are far better opportunities in digital assets and much better technology that will be adopted by the mainstream and have actual utility. So, but again, just my 2 cents. I'm one guy. There's a lot of people smarter than me. So thank you for the super chat. I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear from me, but it is my my opinion on it. I know I saw one other super chat here. We got Honest Aim. Thank you, sir. He says, just in case this is the last opportunity for us to say thank you before the rocket ship takes off. Thank you for all you've done for us in the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Yeah, absolutely, brother. Thank you for you and your wife being there and for all that you do for the community. For those that might want to check out the Mastermind, it's mastermind.beyondbroke.com. We do have a full community of, a little over 1,000 people there that have investments in digital assets. We provide educational and business resources too. A lot of collaborations going on there, deal flow. A lot of other things will take place. We do quarterly events for that group in real life. We have actual people fly in and shake hands and look each other in the eye and have some drinks and hang out. I don't know of any other group that's done that consistently over the last 2 years. I would say that's definitely a differentiator for us. We will have another conference that we put on in April. We will have all the institutional players there, from BlackRock to BNY to Citi and Goldman and Fidelity, along with all the other people in the space that we work with, Anchorage, Securitize, a lot of the lending and borrowing partners, other people for insurance like Woodrow Sawyer, MG Stover for fund admin. All of them will be speaking on panels there at the event in April of 2025 here in Dallas. So excited for that. And again, if you do want to check out the Mastermind, look at the private deals that we have in that group and get the education and the community, you can go to the website, mastermind.beyondbroke.com, and you can put in the code at checkout for Carbon One or Social, Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO for month, all capitalized, and that gets you 1 month free. Check it out, see if it's something that you are interested in. Running it up over here on TikTok. You guys are engaged. This is good. Appreciate y'all. XLM or ETH. XLM personally, if I had to choose between the two. Thoughts on people panic selling today? I don't think anybody was panic selling. Well, I'm sure there were people panic selling. If you recently got in and you're not used to the volatility in this market, I'm sure there's people that sold off. This is a normal day in crypto. If you've been here for a while, like, it's just I'm numb at this point. When you've seen your portfolio go up hundreds of thousands or millions in a day, and you've seen it go down hundreds of thousands or millions in a day, you get, if you cared about the price and not the long-term vision, you would get sick all the time in this market. Let's see, name of company. So we Digital Ascension Group is the conglomerate that we operate under, but we have a couple different websites if you want to go check them out and work with our advisors on any of the estate planning, CPA, accountant, wealth management. It is digitalfamilyoffice.io. You can book a time through there, set up your LLC through that website, get into institutional custody. And then if you want to meet with our wealth advisors or work with Anchorage to custody your assets and get insurance on them and then be able to provide yield or borrow against them, that is digitalwealthpartners.net. I think we're at 210 clients total for DWP or Digital Wealth Partners, and a little over 260 million AUM. One of two SEC registered RIAs in the US that specifically work with digital assets. And I'm highly confident that we are the only wealth manager globally that has as many clients as we do. Nobody else has more than like 10. So blessed, again, just so many good people that want to work with us, and excited about the opportunity to help them with this asset class and the wealth that's coming to all of them. David Choi says, if XRP is basically the thing for the elites, why would average people have a chance for such generational wealth? It's a good question. I've also asked this many times. They needed a way to be able to drive liquidity into the asset to be able to test it. And if you have a hard time gaining traction or adoption from institutions in the short term, the best way to do that is create a public market for it. And so with that, I'm highly confident that retail only holds somewhere between 1 and 2 billion XRP. There are 100 billion XRP, so the rest is held by institutions and enterprises and inside the escrow that Ripple holds. So just the demand from retail was able to drive the price to the current day situation. And that's allowed them to be able to test the mainnet in certain applications, to be able to settle those transactions and roll out ODL and do all the things they needed to over the past 10 years to gain the institutional adoption and the trust of these institutions and banks to be able to deploy this and for them to be able to work with them in a much larger capacity. So there might be 80,000 people on the planet, maybe, that have enough XRP to really make it meaningful. And for me, that's more than, like he mentioned, about 10,000 XRP, I think is a pretty meaningful amount of XRP. Not to say if you have less than that it won't be meaningful one day. I do think that XRP could be 6 digits beyond 2030. So if you're going to hold it for another 6 years for a whole nother cycle, I think that you could see a 6-digit XRP. But if you're looking for liquidity in the short term, at 3, 4, 5 digits within the next couple years, 10,000 definitely puts you in a position to be pretty well off. So, and I think there's a certain personality and traits that this asset tends to attract. Most people that I've spoken with have some type of spirituality in some capacity. They are not gluttonous. They want to be able to provide for themselves and their family, but anything beyond that, they're wanting to give back in some capacity to their community or a cause or nonprofits or something else, right? They're wanting to build something. Some people want to build a legacy or create an empire that makes an impact in for-profit markets. But everybody, has this dream and feels like they were meant for a little bit more, and they've been guided, if you want to say that, to this asset, which is really interesting to me. We've met with over 1,000 people. Again, we have 1,000 people in the mastermind. I'd say we probably met with, over the past 2 years, maybe 1,600 individuals that hold what they consider a significant allocation to some of these digital assets, and that's just been the common reoccurring theme across almost all those interactions. So there's certain traits that people have that hold these assets. And I think that's a good thing. I think it kind of repels some people that have other traits. So anyway, I'm proud to be a part of that group, I guess is what I'm saying. Scroll on down here. We'll hang out for another 15 minutes and answer these questions for you guys. Got, can Trump use XRP to reduce the national deficit? This is an interesting question, Logan. Yes, but not in the way that you might think, like sell it off and pay for it. So they're just going to refinance it. That's all they're going to do. That's what BlackRock's been doing for the last, what are we at now, 16 years since 2008. That's what they do. They repackage debt. They take bad debt, they package it with good debt, and they make sure that they can sell it off, and it's not going to impact the economy in a significant way like it did in 2008 when everything crashed on itself. Okay. XRP is the mechanism that they're going to use as a positive feedback loop to be able to continue that process and work till we have actual economic value that's being created and real GDP and growth. Okay. And the way that they're going to do that is by moving value onto the network. So if you had an asset on your balance sheet, you have assets and liabilities. Right now, our liabilities are $36 trillion, and our assets are not anywhere close to that. We can't tax our way out of it. People are fed up with taxes at this point. And inflation has eaten so much of people's wealth that they can no longer afford to live. For a lot of people on the wages, because wages haven't kept up over the last 24 years. They've increased at about 12% since 2020, while everything else is 4 times more expensive. Homes, groceries, all of it. Okay. So they're really at the limit of what people are willing to put up with. And so the way that they're going to be able to get out of this, instead of revaluing gold like they did in 1933 when they collected that from people, and Roosevelt made it, he enacted an executive order that mandated everybody give up their gold to the U.S. government. They're not going to do that. They're just going to start using this asset. And when they use it to be able to settle transactions and drive enough liquidity into it, it will move up the value in unison with the balance sheet, right? And so if you have enough assets to pay off your debt, then you can start refinancing things. And I think that's what they're going to do. You've got Judy Sheldon talking about a gold-backed 50-year bond that they would roll out July 4th of 2026, which would be on the 250th anniversary of our country, 50 years before the 300th anniversary of our country, which would be redeemable in gold. It's not just China and Russia and other nations that have been stockpiling gold over the last 5 years here since the BIS designated it a tier 1 asset in 2019. The U.S. has been doing the same quietly. We have the gold. It's not the gold that you think we have in Fort Knox, but we have the gold. So we're going to be okay. They will shore up the currency with that. But yeah, they'll be able to issue debt. Same way I'm looking at doing it against XRP, they will do it too. So as they use the asset and it drives value into the asset, that we would issue debt against it, borrow against it as collateral, buy things and move them on chain. And when they move them on chain, guess what that does? Transactions move on chain. That's more volume on the XRPL. Kicks the price up even higher, right? So it's a positive feedback loop. The more you borrow against it, buy assets, move them on chain, the more value goes into the asset itself, and you just rinse and repeat as you drive the value of the price up over time. And that's how they're going to literally dig themselves out of the hole that they put themselves in. Innovation is necessity is the mother of innovation, right? I think we'll see. I don't have any more knowledge than anybody else, but I'm highly confident that BlackRock may have played a little bit bigger role in what's going to happen with XRP than most people think or think. And I would encourage you to watch that, right? So we've got, who's the gentleman that's the head of digital assets at BlackRock? Robbie Mitchnick worked at Ripple for a period of time, moved over there. He was actually the gentleman that put together the calculator that shows XRP can reach $10,000. Who'd have thought, right? He's removed his time at Ripple from his LinkedIn profile, which is interesting to me. You had BlackRock jump the gun a little bit with their ETF this time. Well, it was a little more than a year ago. It's been almost 13 months since they filed their trust with Delaware for the iShares XRP ETF that was fake in 2023. That was on November 14th of 2023. And now we have all these other ETF filings like Wisdom Tree, 21 Shares, Canary Capital. You have all those sitting in the background waiting, buying on the market, padding those things. And I do think once we see the ETFs green-lighted by the SEC and the lawsuit ended with Ripple, that you will see liquidity pour into those ETFs in ways that you can hardly fathom. So anyway, I think that's how they fix the debt. I think they use XRP. And, you know, do we have a strategic reserve of it? Ripple met with the president, you know, current sitting president when he was in office before, and they've met with him now. They met with the Fed in 2014 via Greg Kidd. So, you know, plans within plans type thing. I think it's been going on for a while, but I do think that that is a way that they could pull themselves out of the debt here in the U.S. if they did decide to go that route. A lot of people here in the chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out on a Monday night with me. XRP equals Apple stock. I think XRP is going to do a lot better than Apple stock in a very short period of time, but we'll see. I really like Apple stock, obviously, and then you got Warren Buffett that got in on it later on. Buffett's interesting. Buffett's got a lot of money sitting on the sidelines right now. Like, what was it, $380 something billion in liquidity sat over there, waiting for the markets to collapse. We'll see. Again, I think the reverse carry trade is going to play a big role in the stock market collapse, but I think they're going to pin it on Bitcoin. I think you're going to see Tether collapse and Bitcoin collapse, and there's going to be unrealized losses for all the people that are holding in spot ETFs, and they're going to need to be able to settle that real time, and they'll use Project Ion, which was developed with the DTCC and uses XRP to settle. So, you know, again, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of other people, and that's what's allowed me to kind of put this stuff together. But I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Actually, so Trump has said level playing field a bunch of different times, and you've heard that rhetoric multiple times from people at Ripple as well. Let's see here. Is Ricky Bobby? Oh no, it's Ricky Ricardo. He says, I bought the top yesterday again and bought the dip today. I just keep stacking the train leaves the station. DCA, man, I'm with you. Oh man, we're at 589 followers here on YouTube. What? Anyway, yeah, I'm with you. Just DCA. I think that that's the best way to go about it. I think that that's going to be better suited for most people instead of trying to pick bottoms and tops. So go back over here to TikTok. I'm missing stuff. Sanja says we'll hit $2 again. What should I buy XRP at? If it's going to $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, are you really going to care what you bought it at? I don't know. Again, not financial advice. I can't tell you what to do, but I can just tell you people that bought Bitcoin at $2.50 don't care that they waited $2.50 or $2 or $1.50. Like, they don't care where they bought it if it's $100,000 today. You know what I mean? I'm with, Ricky over here, just dollar cost average. If it's something you believe in and you think is going to do well, just buy when you can, and don't invest more than you're willing to lose. Let's see here. Pegasus has asked an interesting question. Very cool to see you from Greece. It is early there. Thank you for taking your time out early in the morning on a Tuesday to hang out with us. What price do I see XLM getting to over the next 2 years? Almost every large institution that we've talked to that's retail facing is working with Hyperledger in some capacity. Hyperledger BOSU is the main product that they use. And obviously that utilizes XLM to settle. I think as you see peer-to-peer payment scale and merchant services scale, like Stronghold and Velo for peer-to-peer lending, there's going to be a lot of different applications on that network because of the Sorbent smart contracts that are built out. Enterprise applications for retail-facing products. You'll need liquidity in the asset to be able to, settle those payment volumes. I don't see XLM ever getting over $1,000 a piece, and the reason I say that is because of the code. So there's seven decimal places, and if you did want it to be able to facilitate micropayments, it would need 4 decimal places to the right of the decimal, and so that only leaves 3 decimal places to the left of the decimal, making the top value like $999.99999 cents, which would be effectively $1,000 a piece. Does that happen in the next 2 years? Probably not. 10 to 100, sure. I could see that in the next couple years, especially as you had the network adopted and merchant services built out on it and more people moving value over it. I think that's reasonable. Again, crazy good return from whatever it is today, like 50 cents. Fire Marshal Bill, go to cryptotaxaudit.com and then check out, I think there's a search bar there where you can put in 1099-DA. We will hit up a couple more questions over here on the TikTok, and then we will wrap it up tonight. Thomas says, I think they know most people will sell XRP going up, and they will buy back on the way. Most won't hold out. I think a lot of people are going to exit the market and sell their XRP somewhere between $5 and $13 if it does go up in slow motion and the market cycle continues to play out like it has been. I think a lot of people would liquidate their portfolios in that region and be very upset if it continued higher beyond that. And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe it's going to be a slow rise to a certain point, and then they kick it off. It's got enough liquidity in it that they drive it up and roll out the ETFs and do all those things. It'd be interesting. We had the snapshot for Flare 4 years ago in just a few days. I don't know if that means anything or not. 12/12. And then you had the lawsuit that was filed almost 4 years ago, which will be 4 years exactly on the 21st of this month. So been a long road for people that have been here. I've been here since 2020. I had an allocation back then. Missed out on Solana, missed out on Doge, missed out on a lot of other things paying attention to this, but I do think people that have been here and have put in the time are going to have their day in the sun. So excited to be able to work with people on the other side of that. And again, just super excited for the community that we have in the Mastermind. Before we wrap up, I do want to mention that again, if that's something you're interested in, we have almost 600 people here on YouTube. If you want to go check out the Mastermind, it is mastermind.beyondbroke.com. If you do want to check it out for 1 month for free, you just put in the code at checkout, Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO. Gives you 1 month free inside the Mastermind to check out all the business resources, the town halls, the private investments, the culture, the community, and all the other benefits that the network has there. And then, if you guys do want to reach out to my corporation, which is Digital Ascension Group, you can go check that out at digitalfamilyoffice.io. You can set up your LLC through that website. You can also book a call with me or one of our other advisors for the estate planning side of things. If you are looking to get your stuff in institutional custody, be able to earn yield on it, protect it, insure it, set up beneficiaries, make sure that your spouse has access to it if you were to pass away, God forbid. We do all those things, and that is digitalwealthpartners.net if you guys want to check that out as well. Patriot Rose says, love the documentary Rigged. It was very well put together. I agree. Had a very small role in that. Chris and his team flew down here to Dallas on the coldest day of the year. Actually, it was this year in February, and they filmed my segment. Actually had just a little chat with him the other day there on X, and we put it out as a live. And he had another clip of me and the next documentary that they're going to put out, which is around the evolution of money. So excited to see that next year. But anyway, with that, we will go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a happy Monday, happy Tuesday for the people over there in Europe and Australia that watch the live stream here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Again, hopefully we'll see you guys in the mastermind. And if not, we will see y'all Wednesday night. God bless, and we will see y'all on the next one.